Hi everyone! This is a video that I dedicate to Dee's Night Crew. You know who you are, you know the conversations we had, and you inspired me to be a little bit vulnerable. And to use my vulnerability to explain my stance on some things that I'm seeing in the community. Whether people watch this video or not, that's irrelevant. Sorry, I just kind of ate some salami and string cheese. I'm so not a good YouTuber. So anyways, I just wanted to talk about something that was sparked in me from some conversations that I had last night with some very strong people. And then also, they shared their vulnerabilities. And I talked to somebody who I care for very deeply, who is struggling right now in the community. Um, um, and I think that we need each other to lift each other up. And sometimes the strength is showing that we need help or asking for help, and just kind of talking about our life stories and the experiences that we've had that have made us who we are. And so I share a lot, but I don't share a lot at the same time. And I've had some life experiences that have probably molded me to be the person that I am now, and to be the person who's so driven. If you guys hear noise in the background, we have somebody doing some electrical work on the house, and so you'll hear like drilling, and just FYI in case that just pops up. Um, so all right, again, string cheese and salami. Should probably brush my teeth before this, but that's okay. You guys can't smell my salami breath. Um, okay, so here's what I wanted to talk about. I'm gonna start a new video. Some salami. I could keep this video going. Maybe I should. I can only imagine. Oh my gosh, that syntax. She had stuff in her teeth. I'm just gonna keep going. Okay, anyways. So, a lot of you guys know I'm a social worker. I did combat and military sexual trauma counseling for the Vet Center, which is like a subset of the VA. And I fell into that because the military population is my population, and you guys have heard my story. I was raised. My dad was a Green Beret, career Army, so I was an Army brat. That's what I was born into. And then my husband, after we were married, he joined the Air Force. We were married for like a year. And then we were like, things like we couldn't make ends meet. We didn't have health insurance, all those good things. And we're patriots at heart. But honestly, like, we needed freaking health insurance because our kid kept getting ear infections. And we were broke students, and we were just struggling. So we were, I had my youngest really young. I mean, my oldest. And and I always kind of wanted to join the military. Like, I always wanted to do something, to be someone to make change. And I knew that I wanted to be like mental health. So I wanted to join the military to do counseling. And I actually was looking into it. So when my husband joined, my plan was to join too, which in the grand scheme of things for our family personally, the dual military life would have been very difficult. So, I ended up having my second child, and then was diagnosed with lupus. So like military career was out of the question, right? So my service was in a different way, the way I served. So um, no, it took me a while to finish my education. It took me a long time because my husband joined the military, and I had done so much schooling, but then we had moved, and I wasn't able to finish, and so eventually finished my bachelor's. In fact, his first deployment, I went and I lived with his parents because I had to do some of my schooling actually in the state of Utah, and we had moved away, and so that was like inhibiting my ability to finish my degree. So, um, so I ended up doing that. So I was able to finish my degree during his first deployment, and it was hard. It was so hard, particularly on my oldest. He was like in fifth grade at that point in time. Um, that was tough. That was tough. Um, and so that was the beginning of many deployments. So he's done like seven of them over the period of time. Um, it was really hard. And then um, I was home with the kids. I had my medical stuff. I was going to school, so I ended up getting my master's. And the goal was always to stay within the military population. So, like, I did my practicum, my first one, because you had to do two, at the Airmen and Family Readiness Center. So that was more information and referral. And then my second one I did at the VA. And so I went to a little VA clinic in Sierra Vista, Arizona, and it was CBOC, CBOC. I don't even remember the acronym, like what that stands for. It's basically like rural. And oh my gosh, I loved my mentor and my supervisor, and then I was like, oh my gosh, I knew that that was my population. I knew that was the work that I wanted to do. That one was a little bit easier because it wasn't like pure combat trauma. Although, like, oh my gosh, on Christmas Eve, I remember it was so hard because there was this veteran, and you get so attached to him, and like, he was suicidal, and he was intoxicated, and he had called, and he had a weapon and an intent, and I had to call the cops, and he ended up getting his arm broken, and it's tough because like I still had my energy then, and so I was like, yeah, I can do this, but like then you go home and you're like stuck on like, are they going to be okay? And so you're like, for Christmas, am I really present because I'm so worried about this veteran? But everything at that moment ended up working out. That man's story is sad, and I'll get back to that man in just a second. Um, so so then I end up going to my second. Um, no, sorry. Then that was my second practicum, and so then I end up getting hired onto the vet center, and it was like to do rural work. And it's kind of interesting. So like I'm brand new, right? I'm like, yay, I'm gonna make a difference, and not burnt out yet. I get burnt out though. And I'm talking to, so you talk to your supervisor, right? So it's this weird like dynamic where it's like almost unhealthy. Like you go in and you have these like meetings with your supervisor. I had like once, because I was like basically isolated away from the group, which was really bad for somebody who was new to this, and then just to expect them to do like military sexual trauma and combat trauma like back to back to back to back to back. It was not healthy for me. Like it was a bad situation, and the supervisor was not a very good supervisor either. And so um, he would talk to you, and you want to find out like your biases and what makes you tick, and so that you're a stronger therapist. But at the same time, it's almost like therapy too, because you're talking to your supervisor about like your personal stuff that's affecting your work, and because we all have triggers and those sorts of things. And so and told him about a story from one of my husband's deployments that was really personal, and it was really hard, and um, because you open up those boundaries so that you can try and figure out how to be a better clinician. And so one time when my husband was deployed, one of the things that I do is I would do like home projects. So like as soon as my husband is gone, I would like immerse myself in like redoing the yard, or just anything to kind of keep my mind off of stuff. Like I just break out the power tools. It's what I do. That's how I cope. And there was one time I was going to Lowe's with the kids, and we were like 30 minutes away from the Lowe's. So I got all the kids. I think my oldest was 12-ish at that point in time. So it wasn't the first deployment. Like we'd done a couple of them by that point in time. And so I had my daughter, and then my son, my younger son, who's now 13. He must have been like maybe 3 or 4. I don't remember how old he was. It's all kind of blurring together. So we go to Lowe's. We get what I need. I think I was doing like um, I was doing my laundry room. I was putting like cabinets and stuff and redoing the flooring. And we get done, and it's about dusk, right? And this is like a little bit of a rougher part of town in Tucson where this Lowe's is. And I'm driving back, and I see something in the road, and I don't know if it's an animal. I don't know what it is. And I look, and I say, "Oh my God, that's a man! It's a man, and he's laying in the road, and he's been hit by a car." And my son, he's like, "Keep going," because he's terrified, right? He's like, "Mom, keep going, keep going." And I'm like, "No, like I can't. I can't keep going. So I pull over to help this man who's been hit by this car. And and the man that had hit him, he's in shock. He's completely just destroyed, right? He's trying to call 911 on his phone, but the adrenaline and the panic and everything, he's just struggling. And I'm trying be to get him to do what he needs to do to get this man help, because we need to get an ambulance to him. And I'm checking to feel I feel bad because I know I didn't do what I needed to do in the moment, but I'm like, okay, I check, I see, I feel a pulse, right? This man is still alive. That he's been hit and he's like turned and he's bleeding and he's got blood all over him. And so I didn't do mouth to mouth or CPR because like people started coming and there wasn't a nurse, and I was like, I can't turn him because I'm worried that if I like move him, like I'm like I can't remember. I'm trying to remember. That would be my electrical work. I'm trying to remember all the training because I've been through first aid and CPR training, and I'm like I panicked and I didn't know what to do, and I was like I don't want to move him because I don't want to shift his spine, and he's got blood all over him, and I just sat with him and I just talked to him and I just held him and I stayed with him. And, you know, the emergency people ended up coming, and he passed while I was holding him. And I don't know when. I don't know when at what point he passed. Because I just stayed there with him. It was like, I mean, you don't go cold right away. I didn't feel like a last breath. Um, you know, I know that when they turned him, when the people came and I got up and they turned him, he had, you know, lost control of himself, and everyone was like, "That's not a good sign." And and I was like, "No, please just stay alive, just be alive." And he wasn't alive anymore. He had passed, and I remember all the little details, although now time has kind of faded them, but they were stuck in my mind for so long. The fact that he had lost one shoe and it was like on the other side of the road, and I remember like the blood and all that stuff. And I'm sorry if I'm triggering you guys, but I'll get to, there's a reason why I'm telling this story. And I'm getting very personal and very vulnerable because there's a reason for this. I felt so wrecked by that, and I remember I didn't sleep for days. I remember I would see um, spots of, you know, discoloration in the road from maybe oil or whatever, and I would have like flashbacks. And it wasn't like PTSD because it was, you know, it was right afterwards and it ended up resolving itself. So I mean it wasn't to that extent, um but I was wrecked, and that had a profound effect on me. And I think for me, going into trauma counseling, although it's my experience is not anything like most of the people that I spoke to. I mean, the stories, I was a story keeper. I mean, I am a story keeper. I remember the trauma that I've been told, and it stays with me. I remember the pain that people have experienced. Um, and so and so when I was talking to my supervisor, and that was one of the things that I was talking to him about, like why I feel like it was important for me to do the work that I was doing, almost like it was a calling, right? Because although I couldn't really understand the combat aspect of it, or you know the intricacies of those particular people's military sexual trauma, um, I knew trauma a little bit, and I knew how hard it was to sit with, and I just wanted to be there for somebody, to try and help them through that process. And and it was interesting because he didn't necessarily like I told him my story, right, and it comes up later. So um, turns out that that veteran that I was really close to, and I spent my time with him on Christmas Eve, and he struggled, right, and he didn't really feel connected to anybody else in the CBOC, and he was between different places, um, so he wasn't he wasn't necessarily attached anymore. Oh, my husband's calling, but I'm going to decline him. Sorry, my nose is starting to run. So he had another location. Either way, he got lost in the system. There wasn't like a handoff to somebody who could be with him when I left, because when I left, his care stopped. And he didn't have anybody. And he was one of those people that was a little rough. He was a little bit needy, I suppose. And um, I liked him. I really liked him. I don't know. I like a lot of people, though, I guess. I see the good in people. And sorry, my nose is itching now. Um, so so it turned out that through seeing someone else, I found out that he had been lost in the system and he ended up taking his own life. And that hurt. That hurt really bad. I spent so much time, and I know he was such a good soul and such a good person, and I just wanted to make things better for him, but you can't always, you just do your best, you do what you can, and you're human. And yeah, what happened to him was unfortunate, and I was stuck. Like, I was like, what happened? What happened? Did he fall through the crack? And so I was talking to my supervisor about that because it was hard. That's the only veteran I've ever lost, and it hurt. It hurt bad. And I was talking to my supervisor about it, and he basically said that I was my own undoing because of my curiosity, and that I was nosy, and that I needed to just let things go. And he basically said, kind of like that guy, right, that you saw on the road, you should just let him go. You should have just kept driving. And I was like, and mind you, this guy, most of the people in the vet center, they're attached to people in the military somehow. Like, generally they're either like they've been in the military, their spouse has been in the military. Like, that's something that's really important for him. It was his nephew was in the military, and he really didn't have any like personal, well, I mean, his nephew, and I don't want to diminish that, but his experience was very different than somebody who had like served and was like, no, I have my, you know, my camaraderie and my partners, and I'm going to get them out, and we're, you know, we're in this together. He didn't have that experience, or just the experience, I think, of putting yourself aside and trying to do something to, you know, sacrificing yourself for someone else, whether that be sacrificing your like actual life, or, you know, discomfort of engaging with somebody who's taking their last breaths and holding them and being with them, even though it was just some homeless guy that was just crossing the street. And yeah, he was intoxicated, like, and people probably wouldn't even remember his name. I went and I took a little wreath out there because I was like, people won't remember this man, and he was a person, and he deserves to be remembered. So him telling me that, like, you know, sometimes you just need to not engage, and you just need to not be nosy. He said I was nosy, and I don't think he understood it was out of compassion. And he told me a story. He told me a story about, so the cool thing about the vet center is he was at a different location, and they have these veterans that when they're going through school, they can do like a work study, so they get paid to be like kind of just help us out, right? And so there was a bunch of, you know, grunnish work studies who were, you know, veterans. And there was it used to be on a busy street, and there was an accident, and something happened, and I can't remember. This wasn't my first hand, this was him telling me the story. Something happened, and there was people in the car, and the car was like leaking gas, and there was a fire concern or something like that, and they didn't they their people were going to be hurt. And so these awesome veterans, they go out and they help get people out, and they move things, and they make sure that everyone's safe. And he was saying sometimes you just need to preserve yourself. And what they did, although it was honorable, they shouldn't have. And I completely disagree with that. And I feel sad for him because I don't think he understood the population that he's working with, and the drive and the reason for what we do. And I'm not a veteran, guys, but I think I have some kind of an understanding of the selflessness, um, that I've seen from so many veterans and so many of my family and friends, because that's like my community where I've been brought up. It really does become a familial thing with a lot of people in the military. And so I, the reason why I tell you this story, and I'm sorry if it feels like I've digressed and we're 20 minutes in this already, there's a lot of people who don't understand why we want to do this peaceful protest rally, whatever you want to call it. They say, go the legal route. There's these things that you should be doing, not the protest. That's not helpful and it's silly, and or just not a good avenue. And here's what I have to say about that. And I know everybody has the right to believe what they want to believe, but I feel in this moment that we are at a crucial point in history. We have an opportunity to make a difference. There are some very bad, corrupt, wrong things happening in in our world, our country, our systems, our financial systems, our political systems, and we have a chance. We have a chance to make a difference. And by God, if it's going legal route, if it's tweeting, if it's being mildly obsessed, I want to do it because I feel like I was put here in this place with this situation for a reason, whether it's spiritual, because I'm not necessarily the most spiritual person, but I do believe in a higher power, and I believe there's reasons for things. I don't know. I don't know why, but I'm here, and I feel so compelled to make change for you guys, for our country, because I'm a damn patriot. I know it's like it's in my blood, but for my kids too, for my kids, and for the future, because we have a responsibility to protect what what we have not experienced, but what we should be able to be experiencing right now. And since there's corruption and we have an opportunity to make change, my God, I'm gonna do it. And and we have, and I know January 6th, like it fundamentally changed people's view on people assembling. But it is our right and our responsibility, and we have to protect that. We have to protect our right to assemble and to peacefully protest. Now, am I talking about violence? No, no one at this rally is talking about violence. This is about showing and spreading awareness of the corruption, um, particularly of the entities that are supposed to be protecting us. We're doing it in front of the SEC, and there is, a permit that's been filed, and we are all going to be responsible. There's CEOs stepping up, and a lot of people don't understand why we're doing it. Oh, and oh, he doesn't like being in my video, so I wanted to make sure he wasn't in there. So, anyways, people are driven at different levels to take different risks and different levels of selflessness. And I'm going to fight for my right to assemble with people who see things that they want to change. And we're going to do it in a way that hopefully brings some eyes on the situation. And yeah, we're going to do the legal front too, just like John Berta's doing, the legal front too, and he's donating to this. And we've got Roger Hamilton, and um, look throughout history. Sometimes it takes people rising up and getting a little bit uncomfortable, and getting out of that comfort zone and risking things for something that's greater than themselves. And right now, I feel like I am a part of something that's bigger than me, and I want to see change. And I know this may have been a rant, and you guys learned a little bit more about me, and I don't know who's going to watch this video. Um, but I just ask that when you see people who are being critical of those who want to go and assemble, and that's their right to do so, and it should be protected and it should be encouraged as long as they're doing it peacefully. Um, I hope you can recognize and maybe speak up and say, they have the right to do that and it's okay, and not demean people because they're utilizing that option. And I got a sick kiddo who's crying, and I've been emotional. I'm tired. I was up late last night. Someone in the community was having some struggles, and stuff's getting hard. It's getting hard. But sometimes things get really uncomfortable and really hard in order for us to make the change that we need to make. So I just ask you, what's your priority? And I know that you want to make money. I know I want to make money, right? But what is driving me is so much bigger than the money. I mean, the money will come. It will come. If we have a free and fair market, then we will have the ability to, have the markets work appropriately for businesses and then for us financially. But I gotta go. Thanks, guys. Bye.